I started riding later than most, and lately I've been thinking about something I didn't expect to think about this early. Am I actually getting better at riding, or am I just getting better at getting by? Because there's a difference. And the more you ride, the harder it is to tell which one you're doing. When you start later like me, there's always this quiet question sitting in the background. Did I miss the part where this should become natural? Like maybe there's a version of riding that you only unlock if you start young, where things just click, where everything feels automatic. And if you didn't start there, maybe you're always just a step behind that version of yourself that never existed. I think there's this invisible timeline in motorcycling. Nobody talks about it directly, but you feel it. It shows up when you watch other riders, especially the ones who've been doing this forever. They don't look like they're trying. They don't look like they're calculating every move, they just ride. And it's easy to assume that's what better looks like. Effortless, unconscious, automatic. But when you start later, I think the experience looks different. You're more aware, more intentional, you notice everything you're doing, and instead of feeling smooth, you feel like you're constantly managing the ride. Which leads to a frustrating question. If I'm thinking this much, am I actually improving? And here's where it gets confusing. Because sometimes getting better doesn't feel like progress. It feels like hesitation, like you're second guessing things you used to just do. You roll off the throttle a little earlier, you take corners a little more cautiously, you leave more space than you used to, and if you're not careful, that can feel like you're losing confidence, like you're becoming a worse rider over time. But that's not necessarily what's happening. What's actually happening is you're seeing more, you're recognizing risk sooner, you're understanding consequences more clearly, and that awareness, it changes how you ride. When people start riding young, they build skill through repetition, through instinct, through doing things over and over again until it becomes second nature. But when you start later, you don't just rely on instinct. You build understanding, you think about positioning, you think about traction, you think about what could go wrong. And that thinking doesn't always feel good. It feels slower, heavier, less fluid. But here's the shift. Understanding lasts longer than instinct, because instinct can fade, it can plateau, but understanding keeps evolving. The problem is, the kind of improvement you're making now isn't obvious. It doesn't show up as speed, it doesn't show up as sharper riding, it shows up in things you barely notice. You read situations earlier. You predict what other drivers are going to do. You avoid problems before they happen. You stay calmer in the moment that used to spike your stress, and none of that feels like progress because it doesn't feel dramatic. But if you really think about it, that's the kind of improvement that actually keeps you riding. So maybe the issue isn't whether you're improving, maybe the issue is how you're measuring it. Because if your definition of better is more aggressive riding, more speed, more confidence in every situation, then yeah, it might feel like you've slowed down. But what if better actually means more control, more awareness, more consistency? Then the picture changes completely. So, am I too old to be getting better at riding? No, but I am at a point where getting better looks different than expected. It's quieter, less obvious, less impressive from the outside, but more meaningful in the long run. Because it's not about becoming the best rider on the road, it's about becoming a rider who understands the road better. And maybe that's the version of improvement that actually matters. Thanks for watching. Take care and ride safe.